Welcome to This Explainer. Look, we're diving into a project today that isn't just about fixing up some old car. It is an absolute high-stakes financial gamble. We are tracking the total resurrection of a legendary muscle car, a car that literally spent 5 brutal years rotting away in an outdoor impound lot after being seized from a bankrupt businessman. Let's get right into it.
So, jumping right into this massive risk, the guy who bought it summed it up perfectly. He said this was either going to be the cheapest Hellcat in the country or the most expensive pile of rust of his life. And honestly, he hit the nail on the head. Buying a discontinued icon that had been sitting outside, completely exposed to the elements for half a decade, that is the absolute definition of a gamble. Was this going to be the automotive steal of the decade or just a complete and utter financial disaster?
All right, section 1, the gamble. Betting on a dead legend. To really understand the sheer weight of this gamble, you gotta know what we're dealing with here. This is not just your everyday commuter car. This is a 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat. It's got a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 engine pumping out 707 horsepower. That is the heart of a monster that made Dodge an absolute legend all over again. But here's the kicker. Dodge doesn't actually build this iconic Hemi V8 engine anymore. Production permanently shut down in 2023, and it's not coming back. What that means for us is that every single surviving model out there is a finite, highly sought-after piece of automotive history.
And the contrast here, it is just mind-boggling. On one side, you have the factory glory, right? A $64,000 rocket, fresh off the lot, doing 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. But on the other side, a $23,000 moss-covered question mark that honestly looked more like a neglected chia pet than a high-performance sports car. It had been seized, abandoned for 5 whole years, and get this, literally nobody else at the auction had the courage to even bid on it.
Moving on to section 2, diagnosing a dead legend and assessing the damage.
So when the buyer finally arrived at the lot to pick it up, the reality of 5 years of total neglect set in fast. The damage wasn't just cosmetic, although don't get me wrong, there was plenty of that. Tree sap was literally baked into the body, the clear coat was completely burned away by the sun, and the interior completely overrun with thick white mold. But the biggest shock was underneath the car. Someone had actually stripped the super valuable 20-inch original alloy wheels and those massive high-performance Brembo brakes. They slapped on these basic, cheap steel wheels and generic replacement brakes just so the car could physically roll onto the tow truck. You literally cannot safely stop a 707 horsepower car on those. Did the original owner pawn them for quick cash? Did they get swiped at the impound lot? We'll never actually know. But it meant starting this project thousands of dollars in the hole right out of the gate.
Which brings us to section 3, the restoration method, bringing back the Go Mango. Now, confronted with a car in this terrifying state, you can't just cross your fingers, turn the key, and hope for the best. As the restorer perfectly put it, bringing a car back from the dead isn't about magic, it is entirely about method. It takes incredibly strict discipline, thorough diagnosing, immense patience, and doing things in the exact right order. So let's see how this method was actually applied, starting with the biohazard sitting in the cabin.
See, because the windshield channels had clogged up with debris, they spent 5 years dumping rainwater directly into the car. The result? The interior leather had turned completely white with fungus. It was a literal biohazard in there. So a quick wipe down with a damp rag definitely wasn't going to cut it. Eradicating this mess meant ripping every single seat completely out of the car. Every inch of the floor had to be scrubbed by hand, corner by corner. The seats were meticulously cleaned piece by piece, brushing specific leather products deep into the pores until the leather darkened back to its original color and could finally breathe again.
Then came the exterior. A really heavy wash with a foam cannon finally revealed Dodge's signature Go Mango orange underneath all that grime. But the protective clear coat was totally fried. The decision was pretty brutal, but necessary. They had to take a sander to a Hellcat. For a brief, terrifying moment, this 707 horsepower monster was reduced to this matte gray ghost in primer. But, that primer created the perfect foundation. Layer by layer, the exact factory code Go Mango paint was applied, completely bringing the fire back. Once it cured, polishing machines brought the whole finish up to a flawless, uniform, mirror-level shine.
All right, section 4, waking the beast, the very first start.
Okay. So with the body and interior looking pristine, the ultimate question still remained. Does the heart of this Hellcat actually beat, or is it just a dead engine wrapped up in fresh paint? Before even attempting to start a massive engine that's been sitting for 5 years, you really have to do it right or you risk killing it instantly. Out went the dark, lifeless oil. In went fresh oil, a new filter, and a brand new battery. But the most telling sign of neglect? The spark plugs. Get this. This specific 6.2-liter engine requires a staggering 16 spark plugs. That is 2 for every single cylinder. The old ones were completely carbonized and just totally dead. It took 16 brand new plugs just to make it safe enough to even attempt turning the key.
So, with the engine bay finally clean, fresh oil pumping, a new battery, and those 16 plugs installed, it was time for the moment of truth. Key in the ignition, turn, and nothing. No dash lights, not a single click. Just absolute, terrifying silence from 707 horsepower. But the mechanic didn't panic. He went straight to the power supply and actually found a blown main fuse holding the whole system hostage, which turned out to be a special order part. But he also knew something else that's absolutely crucial. Gasoline sitting for 5 years turns into a thick, sticky gum. If you try to pump that stuff, it'll instantly destroy your fuel system. So before trying the key again, he dropped the entire fuel tank, thoroughly scrubbed out all that old toxic sludge, and dropped in a brand new fuel module.
Finally, with the new fuse in place and a completely pristine fuel system pumping fresh gasoline, they tried it one more time. The dash lit up. After 5 long years sleeping in the dirt, the Hellcat finally opened its eyes, and the supercharged V8 roared to life on the very first try. The engine was completely alive, and that iconic supercharger whine was back with every touch of the throttle.
So let's look at section 5, the final math. Risk versus reward.
Now that the car is doing what it was born to do, let's break down the restoration ledger and see if this actually made any financial sense. You start with the $23,000 auction bid, which included the buyer's fees, the basic engine prep, and that incredibly grueling detailing to eradicate the mold, relatively cheap at around $1,800 combined. But replacing those stolen parts, yeah, that stinged. It was $4,500 for the new wheels and tires and $3,800 for the massive Brembo brakes. Throw in $400 for those 16 spark plugs, $900 for the fuel system fix, and finally a pretty massive $8,600 price tag for that flawless Go Mongo paint job. So when you tally every single expense up, the total cash poured into this resurrection comes out to $43,000. Now context is everything here. A 2018 Hellcat in good condition is worth around $52,000 today, with pristine examples easily fetching well over $70,000. Considering its pretty rough history, the restorers set a highly conservative target resale value for this specific car at $54,000. If the car sells for that target price, it leaves an impressive $11,000 in pure profit. That right there is the reward for applying immense patience, a strict method, and honestly a little bit of bravery to a vehicle that nobody else wanted to touch.
But beyond the profit margin, the real victory here is conservation. Every Hellcat that rots away in some impound lot is one less in the world. And remember, Dodge is never building the supercharged V8 engine ever again. So I'll leave you with this question. Considering this car is now a finite piece of history, is $54,000 too expensive? Or is it a perfectly fair price to own a legendary beast brought back from the dead? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what's possible when you combine high risk with a perfect method.